as we say, each of us are responsible financially, morally and environmentally looking at the wastage that's around. We had a patient, we were looking to standardise to a particular leg bag for this patient and a night bag. The patient wouldn't have the night bag. We wanted to use single-use bags. I'm not using that, the environment. He was more concerned about his environment than actually the reason why we were looking at other things. So we had to go and explain to him the reasons why we felt, because he kept getting UTIs. So we were trying to enforce and reinforce the importance of hygiene and things like that. In the end, we came to a compromise. We couldn't change his bags. There was no way he was going to go for a single-use bag. CCGs are getting really hot on these sorts of things now. Posters going around. I quite like the, you need enough to keep you covered, but this is ridiculous. I've seen this where you've gone into a patient's home and they've got cupboard full of medication that they've actually stopped years ago, but actually they're still ordering it. Reviews by pharmacists and GPs these days are a lot better than they used to be. So patients are actually going in and being reviewed on a regular basis. Every time I go into for my husband, who's got MS, we get, have you had your review yet? So we have to go in and have a review. So we're getting there. It's our NHS. We all work for the NHS. There are, have we got some private organisations here as well? But you come under this sort of thing as well when it comes down to prescribing. You're being monitored of what you're doing. Okay. Are there many people here who actually have formularies within their areas? Can I see? And how do you find the formularies work? Very well. Yeah. So do you have a limit to what you can actually prescribe, or is it a number of different items, sort of like in priority? It's in priority. Can I ask, are you sharing your formularies with other organisations as well? So, because I know we were looking at things and it was quite difficult to get permission to actually look at some of the formularies. People were quite protective. But it's looking at seeing what's best for the patients and for the organisations. So, what are we doing to reduce waste? Can any of you tell me, within your areas, what do you do to reduce any wastage? Sorry, who's that? Oh, sorry. Yeah. Everything goes through there. Yeah. And do you find that that is working really well now? Yeah. And is that through your own CCG or is it through? CCG. Yeah. And with
I'm paying for a role. She paid for it.
So she paid through the CCG. It's very difficult because where you are with all the different CCGs around, slightly do different things and what they're requesting. I know from where I am, there's no money in the CCG. That's across the board. They want us to put on new services, but they've got no money to do it. But obviously, if we look at things around wastage, if we can reduce that down, then that money can then be freed up for new services. We've recently been working very closely with the CCG management and medicines management team, and what we've actually done is within continence and stoma is actually doing review clinics of the high spend patients within the surgeries. So we've actually gone in and actually had clinics within the surgeries to reduce down those overspends, where people have got extra accessories and sprays, and do they actually need all this? Or is there an alternative that can reduce those costs down? And we have found that we have managed to reduce down the cost for our area. So we've been commissioned to carry on doing that in relation to our other jobs. That was just a little extra that we've offered the CCG to try and see, by us doing that, then they can free up some money to give us to do extra clinics for them. So there are ways around things. So just a few of the causes of appliance wastage. Repeat prescriptions. How many patients, it's a bit like your pets. I don't know wherever you work, but we have no callback. All our patients are on callback. We have no patients that are on automatic deliveries anymore for cats. Does that go across the board for most people these days? Because we were finding that people were stockpiling, and you'd go in there and they'd be under this staircase, they'd be in the loft. We had one patient who had so many pads at one point, he was actually using them to insulate their loft tank. Why? That's our money. We need to keep that monitored. So the issue I have also with the care homes when they're ordering for patients and they just carry on ordering, but actually we do a system now where they have to tick a box to say that patient is with them. And I've known as the wicked witch at times, because when we get those lists back and people have died, I then tell them we want those pads back, and they hate it. But we've used them on other people. Well, that's not mine. That wasn't for that patient. You need to return them. So there's ways around it. We're working even harder now to change things as well. As we say, stockpiling of continence appliances in the home. I've had one patient who I was asked to go and see, who had been discharged home from doing intermittent catheterisation. It was really frustrating because this person was actually a nurse. And what had happened was she'd been set up on a home delivery service before she left the hospital to go home. And then when she went home, the GP had also done the prescription because the hospital had told her that she needed a prescription. So she ended up with, I think she had something like 15 boxes of 30 catheters. And actually, by the time I'd actually got in to see her, she was down from doing it 4 times a day to twice a day. So she had all these boxes and actually said, oh, well, I don't know what I need them for. So we took those away, but obviously we can't reuse them because they were actually for that patient. So that was a total waste of money. Big thing with patients, they think if they don't order something one month, they're not going to get it the next month. We've had this where patients have said, well, I didn't really need it, but I got it because I think if I don't let the doctor know, they won't give it to me again. So it's really monitoring the amount. But also, as we know, a box of leg bags, you get 10 in a box standard. So that's 2.5 months supply, and patients are getting them every month. So that's where your stockpiling is coming. On here, patients passing away and prescriptions requests still continue. It does happen, not as much as it used to, but obviously there's that gap between the patient dying and the GP being informed on where that patient was at the time. So we do need to be aware of what is going on. New changes to the way of prescription. With patients in areas with the home delivery services that are available through the DACs, a lot of patients, what would happen was patients would be put on home delivery service, the company would apply for the prescription, they'd send out the supply to the patient. Then if they hadn't got the prescription, they'd request that prescription. Okay. A lot of areas now, they've stopped that altogether, and within the companies, so they have to have a prescription first before they will put out the delivery for that patient. Unless there's an emergency, there are some cases where they will actually deliver it beforehand. Okay. So we as specialists and as nurses, we need to support those patients to understand where they're getting their prescriptions from and who's delivering them. It is patient choice. Quite often, patients used to be set up on a home delivery service but actually weren't explaining what was happening. So they weren't aware who was delivering, when they were delivering, what they were expecting. So this was the previous way of doing it. So the patient would contact the pharmacy or the home delivery service. They would then contact the GP surgery for prescription. Prescription was sent to the company or the pharmacy. Then it would go back to the pharmacy, and then it would be delivered out to the patient. All being well. So the way it works now, The patient is the person who is requesting that prescription. So the patient will ask for the prescription prior to them requiring it, so a week, 2 weeks in advance. It then goes to the surgery. That request is produced and sent either electronically or is collected if it goes to the local pharmacy, and then it goes to the pharmacy to be dispensed or the home delivery service, and then the patient receives it. So with this, as I was saying, we really need to make sure that our patients are aware of what they need to do. Because how many times have you had a call on a Friday afternoon, I've got no bags, I've got no this, it's really difficult. We don't tend to stock things in my area anymore because we have no storage within the hospital. We've got a brand new hospital, beautiful hospital, there's no storage, and it's used by multiple people, so it's a lift building, so we don't even own the building. So we have to fight for storage. So online telephone support. So for your area where you've got your specialist nurse, that's ideal because they can contact the patients and keep them informed of what's going on. Patients are asked to order the repeat prescription at least a week beforehand, okay, so that they don't run out of stock and to reduce the risk of it being without any products available. Educating the patients about the process is really, really important. We need to help them to understand that just because they don't order something 1 month, as I said previously, it doesn't mean they're not going to receive it another time. Patients are encouraged to order no more than 1 month's worth of products at a time. I know where my husband, when it comes to his prescriptions, he gets 2 months in a go. And it's quite confusing because if they add in an extra medication, it all gets out of sync and then we don't know where we are. So I then end up going back to the pharmacist saying, well, what are we missing this month? Because we don't know. So as a specialist and as a nurse, I get confused. So for the poor patients out there, it can be really confusing. Patients are encouraged to order no more than 1 month worth to reduce that stockpiling as well. And also, it's interesting, we had a patient that I went to do a catheterisation in the care home. And as I went to go in, unfortunately, the catheter that had been delivered was actually out of date. So it's things like that. So you need to know that those products are going to be in date before you use them. That patient didn't have another catheter in the home, so we had to urgently order one to get him one in. And then I had to go back to the home delivery service to find out what the issue was. And there was an issue with their batch that they'd sent out and hadn't realised. So we do have to be on the lookout for things like that. Promote the use of products which are high quality, cost effective, and make the reordering process as straightforward as possible. And this is where I think this product has really come to its own. Have many of you actually heard of the Hugo 4 weeks before? Can I have a show of hands? Not that many, okay. Which is interesting because it's been around for quite a little while now. So basically, what the idea of this is, you've got a packed, discrete storage box. So to actually look at it, it looks like just a normal sort of carry bag. It's quite handy because inside you've got everything containing all the things that you need for a catheter, including fixation and drainage for 4 weeks. Okay. It's 1 code per box. It's quick and easy for patients to order. They only have to remember 1 item. It's not like they have to remember the leg bags, the night bags, the fixation straps. And 4 weeks supply reduces risks of running out of stock. And as we say, if they're getting their prescriptions at least a week before, they will never run out. Just going to show a little video now of the actual device. In your bags that you had from the main delegate bag, there's an information leaflet about the actual product itself. Within the products, what you actually get are 4 leg bags, 28 night drainage bags, single use. You also get a fixation device, 4 pairs of straps, which is quite nice. Because quite often you go in and find that when you go into a care home or in the patient's own home, you've only got 1 pair of straps for 10 leg bags. By the time you've actually got to the 10th bag, they've got no straps left. They've got elastic and bits of old cotton, anything to hold them in place. So they really do work well. You've also got a little hanger for the bed, so for your night drainage, so they can actually hang on the side of the bed as well to support them. And there's an information leaflet. With the leg bags, you've actually got your T-tabs and you've got your lever tabs, so it's not just only one design. So there are different codes for the different products. So when you actually look to see what's the most suitable for your patients, so for those with dexterity problems, if you find that the lever tap is better, you've got that option, or you've got the T-tab. As we say, the 4 weeks supply makes it easy for patients and prescribers alike to know when to reorder. By knowing that one Yugo 4 weeks box contains all the devices that you need, it reduces the risk of stockpiling and therefore saving money. So we go back to the CCGs. They'll be happy because obviously what we're doing is reducing the unnecessary over-prescribing. Only one actual dispensing fee per Yugo 4 weeks pack. Normally when you have your prescriptions, you have a prescription cost per item. So you'd have one for your leg bags, your night bags, your fixation, your leg straps, whatever it is, okay? It's maintained, it's in one code, so you've got everything that you need. It encourages best practice in catheter stabilisation, fixation therapy. Again, the amount of times that I've actually gone into places and into patients' homes where they've got no fixation to actually secure that catheter, and the trauma, they've had catheters fall out or being pulled out because they've not been secured properly, and then ended up in hospital because they've got hematuria and then having to be recatheterised because they can't actually get a catheter in, and the district nurses go back in because of the trauma. We're also helping to reduce, as I say, the trauma, but also infection and associated costs with that. If somebody's going to end up with a urinary tract infection really poorly, possibly ending up with sepsis, it's been known, where they end up having associated costs with their hospital stay. Benefits to our care homes. They have got ownership of that product. It belongs to that one patient. It can go in their room. They haven't got lots of boxes. These care homes, they haven't got a lot of room in their actual patient rooms. When it comes to pads and things, they're stored in another area. So that's when the staff just go in and just pick up the first available thing. With this, it's in the patient's wardrobe, it's safe, it will know where it is. Streamless stock management is helpful in the homes as well, because the homes, again, if they've got multiple patients with catheters, they know exactly what products that patient is on. As we say, they are discreet, compact, and they are easy to store for the patients. Benefits to us, for those who are prescribers. How many prescribers do we have in the room? It's all the same people. Well done. I'm not doing it. I've decided I'm going to retire before I get to that point. Okay. Yeah, I think things are changing. So as we say, one code, one box. So it's for you to actually prescribe that. Any information you need about the prescribing of the codes and things, if you pop and see the optimal medical stand, they'll give you all that information. It's convenience of having all your catheter drainage fixation included within that single prescription and in that box. And as we say, only one prescribing and dispensing fee for that box. Benefits to our patients. Again, I know I'm repeating myself, but it is discreet storage, because actually Going to a patient's home, you wouldn't necessarily know what that is. So people aren't going to sort of walk in and think, know what they've got. It's only one code for them to remember. More often than not, they don't remember it, but we make it a lot easier when they have to go to the GP and order that prescription. Patient and carer user guides are included within the box, and it makes it a handy resource for those patients. And also for patients when in between nursing visits, we give out lots of information to patients and their carers. Do they read it? Very rarely. But having looked at this, I think it's a really useful tool, and it's very neat and compact. I'd like to thank you, but what I would like to ask going forward, what are your opinions on things moving forward? Do you find that this sort of compact prescribing all in one pack, do you think it would be much more beneficial to patients? Do you feel that you would actually be happy to prescribe that sort of thing for those patients? Yeah, that is your issue, isn't it? Is it something that you would be able to add on though, or do you have to wait for a set period of time? It's like, we know there's lots of different products out there, but actually, for me, it was quite an eye-opener when I actually went into some of the care homes, and it was, you've got a leg bag belonging to one company, night bag belonging to somebody else, straps from somewhere, and nothing seemed to match. Yes, they do fit together, but actually, it's a streamline, it's there, it's convenient for those patients. So we've actually trialled it with some of our care home patients, and the care home absolutely love it, because, as I say, it's there, and they know that it's that for that one patient. Any other questions? The cost. Okay. So the actual box is £29, 19 pence, and I have actually wrote down and checked out the costings against competitors, and it is very competitive, including all the fixation products within it as well. And even, obviously, you can buy, if people want additional items, you've still got the code, so you can buy those additional items. So should somebody want, if they're going away for a bit longer, you can actually get more. So it's not just, you can only have the 4-week box, then you can buy the additional bits as well.
Sorry, you said something about you run a callback service for your products. Are you talking
that's
about?
For our PAD system.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah. So how long do you leave it before your patients have? Is it your patients that have to call you back, or do you call them back? Oh, because we can't hear you. Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry.
It's all right. I think
you heard. I said you run a callback service for your continence products, right? How long is it do you leave before your patients call you back, or do you call your patients back?
What we are in the process of changing, so I'm dreading this actually. We're going from doing our own callbacks within the service to it being taken in by NHS supply chain for the CAD deliveries. And basically what happened was patients used to ring us 2 weeks before. The plan was 2 weeks before their next due delivery date, and we would then activate their deliveries so they got their deliveries on time. More often than not, they didn't ring 2 weeks before, but they may have just missed it by a day, so we just adjust it. But with regards to that, it's now going to go out of the service, and it's going to go into the home delivery, NHS home delivery. So I'm waiting for the backlash, because obviously at the moment the patients come through to us, it's all going to go into there. But by moving that over, that allows us to then develop other parts within the service. So we could be looking at doing more clinics, because obviously we have an administrator who does that, but when that person is off, one of us as clinical staff have to do those callbacks. And sitting on the phone for is a complete and utter waste of our time. So it's something that we're looking forward to, but also with a bit of dread, I think. So initially for the first sort of 3 months, we're going to do the first callbacks. Any other questions? I'd just like to say thank you, and on behalf of Optimal Medical as well. Please do go along and see this stand. Any information you need about products, they've got the boxes as well. Have a look and see. I think you will really find that they are beneficial to your patients and yourselves as well. Thank you very much.